The stars shimmered in the void, distant and indifferent. Among them, the remains of Mars drifted like a graveyard, a silent witness to humanity's long war against the Galactic Dominion. The red planet had been the last stronghold before Earth fell, and now only ruins remained. Scattered debris, shattered stations, and the wreckage of old battleships formed a chaotic field of twisted metal. It was a fitting battlefield for humanity's final stand. Admiral Elias Kane stood on the bridge of the HSS Revenant, the largest surviving battleship of the Terran remnant. His face, weathered by years of war, was unreadable as he watched the Dominion fleet move into position. Thousands of enemy warships filled the space before him, their sleek, predatory designs cutting through the void like a hunting pack. The Dominion was not here to negotiate. They were here to finish the extermination they had started. The Dominion's High Commander, Archlord Varric, appeared on the main display, a towering insectoid creature with obsidian black armor and 6 burning red eyes. His mandibles clicked together in what was either amusement or contempt. "Humans," Varric hissed, his voice laced with cold certainty. "This is your end. Surrender, and your extinction will be swift." Kane didn't flinch. Instead, he stepped forward, arms crossed behind his back, his steel-gray eyes meeting the alien's gaze. "You talk too much," he said, his tone calm. "Let's get this over with." Varric's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. The transmission cut off. The Dominion fleet began to advance. Kane turned to his officers. "All ships, hold position. Make them think we're scared." Across the human fleet, engines stayed cold, weapons silent. The illusion of helplessness was set. The Dominion believed this would be an easy slaughter. They had no idea what waited for them. On the far edge of the battlefield, hidden beneath the wreckage of Mars, a small squad of human stealth ships activated their drives. Their hulls were coated in experimental cloaking tech, making them ghosts against enemy sensors. Their mission: infiltrate the Dominion's flagship, the Imperium Crown, and sever the head of the beast. Inside one of those ships, Captain Mara Voss checked her weapon and exhaled slowly. This was it. One last mission. One last chance. Approaching target, her pilot whispered. "No signs they've detected us." "Good," Voss replied. "Let's keep it that way." Back on the Revenant, Kane watched the enemy draw closer. The Dominion thought they had won, thought they had finally crushed the last ember of human resistance. They didn't realize they were walking into a trap. "Wait for my command," Kane murmured, eyes locked on the incoming fleet. The Dominion was about to learn the truth. Humanity wasn't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to win. Silence filled the war room aboard the HSS Revenant. The holographic display flickered, showing the Dominion fleet advancing, its formation tightening like a noose around the last remnants of humanity. The air was thick with unspoken tension, but Admiral Elias Kane stood calm at the center, his sharp eyes scanning the battlefield with the precision of a hunter. "Time to impact?" he asked. 5 minutes, a lieutenant responded. "They'll be within firing range soon. We won't last more than an hour against those numbers." Kane didn't look away from the display. "Then we make that hour count." He turned to the officers gathered around him. They were the last commanders of humanity's fleet, each of them veterans of a war that had lasted decades. Some bore scars from battles long past, others had lost entire families to the Dominion's merciless conquest. None of them expected to survive this fight. But survival was no longer the goal. Victory was. "The Dominion believes we're here for one final desperate stand," Kane said. "They think we're out of options, that we're throwing ourselves against them in a last act of defiance." He leaned in, his voice steady. "They're wrong." A new hologram flickered to life, displaying the Imperium Crown, the Dominion's massive command ship. Its sleek, obsidian hull bristled with weapons, and its shield network was impenetrable, at least from the outside. Deep within its core was the Nexus, the Dominion's central command relay. Every fleet order, every strategic command, Every coordination effort flowed through that system. If they took it out, the Dominion's forces would be thrown into chaos. Captain Mara Voss and her infiltration team are already en route, Kane continued. Their mission is simple: board the Imperium Crown, reach the Nexus, and disable it. Once the Dominion's fleet loses its command structure, we strike hard and fast. An officer frowned. Even if they succeed, how do we fight off a force this large? Kane's expression hardened. We don't have to fight them all, just long enough for the rest of the galaxy to see their weakness. The room went silent. For centuries, the Dominion had ruled through fear, crushing entire civilizations under its iron grip. But fear only worked when the enemy seemed invincible. If the galaxy saw the Dominion's greatest fleet collapse, if they realized that even the mightiest empire could bleed, rebellions would ignite everywhere. We don't just break their fleet, Kane said. We break their rule. A slow realization spread across the faces in the room. This wasn't a battle for survival. It was a battle to change everything. All ships, prepare for engagement, Kane ordered. We hold the line until Voss succeeds. No retreat. No surrender. As the Dominion fleet drew closer, Kane allowed himself one final thought. This wasn't humanity's last battle. This was the beginning of their victory. The HSS Wraith, a sleek black dagger against the void, drifted through the debris field surrounding Mars. The Dominion's fleet loomed ahead, a monstrous wall of ships blocking out the stars. If they were spotted, it would be over in seconds. Inside the stealth ship, Captain Mara Voss stood near the cockpit, watching the battlefield unfold through the reinforced viewport. Her pulse remained steady. Years of war had burned away hesitation, leaving only the mission. This was humanity's last gamble, and she would not fail. "Status?" she asked, her voice calm. "Still ghosted," whispered Lieutenant Rourke, the Wraith's pilot. His hands moved with practiced precision over the controls. "Cloaking field is holding. No sign they've pinged us." Voss nodded, turning to the 6 soldiers waiting behind her. They were the best of what remained, silent killers, experts in infiltration and sabotage. Each carried weapons designed for stealth, suppressed rifles, combat knives, and hacking tools built to slice through Dominion systems like a scalpel. She tapped her helmet's comms. "We breach in 3 minutes. Stay sharp. No mistakes." The Imperium Crown loomed ahead, a fortress the size of a small moon. Its hull pulsed with an eerie blue glow, the energy shielding shimmering like a living thing. They couldn't brute force their way in, but they didn't need to. "Final approach," Rourke murmured, latching onto the heat vent now. A gentle shudder ran through the Wraith as the ship magnetized itself to the flagship's venting system. The Dominion's advanced sensor arrays wouldn't detect them here. This was a blind spot, one Voss had studied for months. "Cutting through," said Sergeant Idris, placing a thermal drill against the hull. Sparks danced in the darkness as the metal began to melt away. Voss checked the countdown on her HUD. Back in open space, the battle was minutes from beginning. Kane and the fleet were about to face impossible odds. It all depended on them now. The metal gave way with a hiss. Idris stepped back as cold, artificial air rushed out of the vent. One by one, the team slipped inside, their weapons raised, moving like shadows through the cramped maintenance tunnels. The Dominion ship was alien in every sense. Curved hallways, pulsing biometal walls, and a constant, rhythmic hum that sounded more like a living heartbeat than a machine. Voss had seen Dominion warships before, but being inside their heart was something else entirely. She tapped 2 fingers to her helmet, signaling forward movement. The team crept ahead, boots making no sound against the organic floors. They had one objective: reach the Nexus, the command core that controlled the Dominion's entire fleet coordination. If they shut it down, Kane's fleet had a chance. A soft clicking noise echoed through the corridor. Voss held up a fist, and the team froze. Footsteps. Heavy. Inhuman. A Dominion patrol was coming. Voss exhaled slowly and drew her knife. The ghosts in the machine were about to strike. The first shot of the battle was fired from a Dominion warship, a lance of blue plasma cutting through the void, aimed directly at the heart of humanity's last fleet. Admiral Elias Kane watched from the bridge of the HSS Revenant, his hands clasped behind his back as alarms blared around him. "Shields holding," a lieutenant reported, her voice tense. "But they're testing us." "They won't have to test for long," Commander Holt muttered. "They've got us boxed in." The Dominion fleet was an unstoppable wall of firepower, stretching across space in a formation designed to crush anything in its path. Their ships were larger, their weapons more advanced, their numbers overwhelming. It was the kind of battle no sane commander would engage in. But Kane wasn't here to win conventionally. He was here to buy time. "Hold fire," he ordered. "Let them come to us." Across the battlefield, human ships stayed eerily still, engines running cold. The Dominion, expecting a desperate charge, hesitated for a moment. To them, this behavior was unnatural. Humanity had always fought like wild animals, striking fast and hard even in hopeless battles. They didn't realize they were walking into a trap. Enemy fleet closing. The sensor officer called out. "They're committing to a full advance." "Now we hit them," Kane said. "All ships, fire." The void erupted into chaos. Human warships came to life, unleashing torrents of railgun slugs, missile barrages, and concentrated laser fire. The Dominion, caught mid-maneuver, took the brunt of the attack head-on. Enemy shields flared under the sudden assault, and the first of their warships erupted in flames. Kane watched as Dominion vessels adjusted their formations, quickly adapting. Their ships were stronger, their armor nearly impenetrable. It would only take moments before they retaliated in full force. But moments were all Kane needed. He tapped into the secure fleet channel. Status on the infiltration team. No response. Only static. He exhaled slowly. The mission was still in progress. They had to hold. A new alarm blared. Enemy battleships charging primary cannons. Brace for impact. A second later, the Revenant shook violently as a blast of Dominion energy slammed into its shields. Across the fleet, ships took heavy fire, their hulls burning under the onslaught. Human vessels twisted and weaved, outmaneuvering the Dominion's more rigid formations, but every ship lost was one they couldn't afford. "Damage report," Kane demanded. "Shields at 60%, his tactical officer responded. "We can't take many more of those direct hits." Kane gritted his teeth. They had no choice but to endure. He turned back to the battle map, watching as the Dominion ships moved forward, closing the noose around them. If Voss's team didn't act soon, there would be nothing left to save. "Hold the line," Kane ordered, "no matter what." The storm had begun. Now they had to survive it. Captain Mara Voss pressed her back against the cold, organic wall of the Imperium crown, her breathing controlled, her knife held firm in her grip. The Dominion patrol moved closer, its clawed feet clicking softly against the floor. The alien's elongated head swayed from side to side, its four glowing eyes scanning the corridor for any disturbance. Voss didn't move. Neither did her team. The creature let out a faint, guttural growl before turning away. It continued down the corridor, unaware of the silent figures lurking just out of sight. Voss gave the signal. Sergeant Idris lunged first, wrapping an arm around the alien's thick neck while driving his blade up into the soft tissue between its armored plates. The creature stiffened, letting out a choked gurgle before collapsing. Idris lowered it gently to the ground. One less obstacle between them and the Nexus. Voss motioned for the team to move. They slipped through the dim corridors of the Dominion warship, their boots silent against the strange, pulsing floor. The Imperium crown was more than just a ship. It was a living thing, its walls laced with biomechanical veins that pulsed with unnatural energy. It was a fortress unlike anything humanity had ever built. And they were here to break it. "Approaching the command chamber," whispered Lieutenant Work, checking his scanner. 2 hostiles inside. Another patrol down the hall. Voss nodded. We go quiet. No alarms. The 2 Dominion guards stood near the chamber doors, their weapons held loosely at their sides. Arrogance. They thought they were untouchable here. Voss and Idris moved as one, their blades flashing in the dim light. The first alien barely had time to react before Voss drove her knife up through its jaw. Idris dispatched the second with brutal efficiency, his blade slicing clean across its throat. Both bodies hit the floor without a sound. Clear, Idris murmured. Voss turned her attention to the massive doors before them. The Nexus lay just beyond. If they took it down, the entire Dominion fleet would be thrown into chaos. No centralized coordination, no relayed orders, and then humanity would strike. Rourke, get us in, Voss ordered. Rourke knelt beside the control panel, his fingers moving across a compact hacking device. The Dominion security was intricate, but humanity had spent years studying their systems, searching for weaknesses. A second later, the panel flickered, and the doors slid open. Inside, the Nexus pulsed with eerie blue light, an enormous spherical construct suspended in a gravity field. Dozens of data streams ran through it, feeding every Dominion warship with real-time commands. This was the brain of the enemy fleet. This is it, Voss whispered. Then, an alarm blared. Patrols onto us, Idris cursed, raising his weapon. Voss didn't hesitate. She rushed toward the Nexus, gripping the small data spike on her belt. They had only seconds before reinforcements arrived. The mission wasn't over. It was just getting started. The alarm blared through the corridors of the Imperium Crown, a deep, guttural sound that made the walls tremble. Voss ignored it. There was no turning back now. She sprinted toward the Nexus, the enormous sphere humming with raw power. Data streams pulsed through its surface, sending orders to every Dominion warship in real time. Without it, the enemy fleet would fall into chaos. Cover me, she barked, yanking the data spike from her belt. Gunfire erupted behind her. Idris and Rourke opened fire as Dominion soldiers stormed into the chamber, their elongated forms moving with terrifying speed. Voss reached the Nexus and slammed the spike into a control node. The device hissed. Then a soft pulse of red light spread through the system. Infiltration in progress, Rourke shouted. It'll take 30 seconds. They didn't have 30 seconds. Dominion warriors closed in, their rifles spitting bursts of blue plasma. Idris took cover behind a fallen console, returning fire with deadly precision. A shot grazed his shoulder, but he didn't flinch. Voss spun, raising her own rifle. One of the aliens lunged at her, its razor-sharp claws slicing through the air. She ducked, slamming the butt of her weapon into its head before firing 2 rounds into its chest. The creature screeched and collapsed. More incoming. Idris yelled. We're getting swarmed. The Dominion knew what was at stake. If the Nexus fell, so did their fleet. 10 seconds. Rourke shouted. His hands flew over the hacking device, overriding the final layers of security. A hulking Dominion warrior burst into the chamber, its armor heavier than the rest. It raised a massive energy blade and charged straight at Voss. She barely had time to react. She fired, but the alien's armor absorbed the shots. The blade swung toward her. A gunshot rang out. The Dominion warrior staggered, a smoking hole in its head. Idris stood behind it, his rifle still aimed. Didn't think I'd let you die now, did you? He smirked. Before Voss could reply, the Nexus shuddered violently. The lights flickered, and the data streams turned red. We did it, Rourke shouted, the systems crashing. Across the Dominion fleet, chaos erupted. Their warships, once perfectly coordinated, suddenly broke formation. Some hesitated, waiting for commands that never came. Others fired wildly, colliding with their own forces. The once invincible fleet had become a disorganized mess. Mission accomplished, Voss breathed. Kane, it's your turn. She tapped her comms. "We need an extraction. Now." The battle wasn't over, but the tide had turned. Humanity had just struck its deadliest blow. The moment the Nexus collapsed, the battlefield shifted. On the bridge of the HSS Revenant, Admiral Elias Kane watched the chaos unfold. The Dominion fleet, once a perfect war machine, was now a mess of confused movements and disorganized fire. Some ships held position, awaiting orders that would never come. Others turned in erratic patterns, crashing into their own forces. Kane knew this was their only chance. "All ships, full offensive," he commanded. "Tear them apart." The human fleet surged forward. Frigates weaved through gaps in the Dominion's broken formation, unloading torpedoes into exposed reactors. Battleships unleashed railgun barrages, their slugs punching clean through enemy hulls. Even the smallest corvettes found weak points in the confusion, cutting into Dominion ships like swarms of angry hornets. The Dominion's massive dreadnoughts still packed overwhelming firepower, but without central coordination, their responses were slow, inefficient. Where once they had been an unstoppable wave, now they were floundering giants. Kane allowed himself a rare grin. "They thought they were gods," he muttered, watching another Dominion warship erupt into flames. "Now they bleed like the rest of us." A new alert flashed across his display. "Admiral," his tactical officer said, eyes wide. "The Imperium Crown is charging its main weapon." Kane's expression darkened. Even without the Nexus, the Dominion flagship was still the most powerful ship in the galaxy. Its superweapon had wiped out entire fleets in the past. If it fired now, it could still turn the tide. "How long until it fires?" Kane asked. "Less than 2 minutes," the officer replied. "It's targeting." A pause. "Us." The bridge fell silent. Kane inhaled slowly. "All forward batteries, concentrate fire on that ship." But as the Revenant and its allies opened fire, the Imperium Crown's shields flared bright, absorbing the punishment. The Dominion had spent centuries perfecting their defenses. They could take the beating. But could they take what was coming next? A crackle of static came through the comms. "Admiral, this is Voss," came the voice of the infiltration team leader. "Mission complete, but we're still inside, and we've got a problem." Kane's grip tightened. "What kind of problem?" "They know we're here," she said, "and they're locking us in." Kane's mind raced. Voss's team had given humanity its best chance, but if they were trapped inside the enemy flagship, they wouldn't survive its destruction. He had a choice to make: destroy the Imperium Crown and win the war at the cost of Voss and her team, or risk everything to get them out. The weight of command pressed down on him. "You're not dying today, Voss," Kane said. "Hold tight. We're coming for you." The battle wasn't over yet. Humanity still had one last move to play. Captain Mara Voss sprinted through the burning corridors of the Imperium Crown, her team close behind. The Dominion ship was dying. Sparks rained from the walls. Biometal pulsed erratically, and the deck trembled beneath their boots. But they weren't out yet. "Where's that extraction, Kane?" She shouted into her comms, ducking as an overhead conduit exploded. "Coming in hot." Admiral Kane's voice crackled back. "We're cracking their defenses, but we need more time." Time. That was the one thing they didn't have. Behind them, Dominion warriors pursued relentlessly, their weapons shrieking as they fired. Idris spun, laying down suppressive fire. One alien dropped. Another charged through the bullets, only to be met by Voss's blade as she lunged forward and drove it into its throat. "We can't keep this up," Rourke shouted, reloading his rifle. Voss knew he was right. They were running out of ammo, running out of energy, running out of chances. Then she saw it, a docking bay ahead. But as they neared, a massive blast door slammed shut, sealing them inside the burning wreckage. "Damn it," Idris cursed. "They're trying to trap us." Voss scanned the room. Her mind worked fast. The Dominion weren't just cutting off their escape. They were sealing them inside to die. The flagship was going down, and the enemy wanted to make sure they went with it. Unless... There, she pointed to a maintenance hatch near the ceiling. That leads to the outer hull. Voss, what's your plan? Kane asked. We're taking a shortcut, she said. We need a ship on the outer docking ring. Now. A pause. Then Kane's voice came back, steel hard. Understood. Hold on. Voss climbed first, forcing the hatch open. Her team followed, pulling themselves through tight service tunnels, the heat growing unbearable. Then, suddenly, cold. The hatch above them blew open, revealing the stars. The vast emptiness of space stretched before them, and in the distance, the HSS Revenant burned toward them, its hull scorched but unyielding. A smaller gunship detached from its side, rocketing toward them. Jump, Kane ordered. Voss didn't hesitate. She leaped. For a moment, there was nothing but the void, the endless silence of space swallowing everything. Then the gunship's hatch opened, and strong hands pulled her inside. Her team followed, one by one. The moment Idris was aboard, the pilot banked hard away from the Imperium crown. Clear, the pilot confirmed. Voss collapsed against the bulkhead, breathing hard. Get us out of here. The last thing she saw before the gunship jumped to safety was the Dominion flagship, its core overloading, its mighty hull splitting apart. Then it was gone. The Dominion fleet, leaderless and in chaos, crumbled. Humanity had won. They had taken the galaxy, and no one would ever forget the day it happened.